What's going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. This conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. You might be a little bit confused at our star-spangled attire, but seeing as 4th of July just happened a couple of days ago, we didn't really get a chance to do a 4th of July themed episode. Either for nocturnal transmissions at its appropriate time, and also we weren't able to get out our usual 4th of July episode for the main podcast. So,
I was so disappointed, but it's okay. So today we got our America gear on. Although, technically we always have our America gear on because Andy and I both love the United States of America. It's the best goddamn country in the world.
Sure is.
It has its problems, but it's still great. I love it.
Actually, it's really funny because I just heard something that was kind of disturbing, in that I think a new report saying like late Gen Xers and millennials, like only 30% of them are proud to be Americans, or proud to be identified as American.
Yeah, that's really sad.
And then there was also not a company, but there was something related, a PragerU video where this girl goes around and she's asking young people if they're proud to be Americans, and at least like the responses that they did show were the vast majority were like, no, I'm not proud to be an American. And then the follow-up was like, oh, then can you name a country that's better? And they couldn't, and their default was well, I'm sure there's some small European country that's the magic, the promised land of of diversity and inclusion. But if it's in Europe and if it's a small country, then it's probably an ethno-state, meaning it's a homogenous society.
Well, they have all the Bernie Bros. It's like like Scandinavia, like Norway or Finland, like those guys. It's like, hey, you know what? Like that country is like 99.9% white, and their population is way smaller than ours, and they all have the same values, and they are willing
culture, same everything.
They actually have a lower corporate tax rate than we do, though, which is anyways. But it's kind of sad that there aren't people within our age group that really still love this country, and it doesn't surprise me with all the propaganda, like the 1619 Project, and a lot of the Howard Zinn wackadoos that are telling us that like, oh, we're so awful, and like slavery is all we had. Slavery, and the founding of the country was built off of slavery and genocide of the Indians. It's like, no, it wasn't. In fact, I mean, all those things had been occurring throughout the world for millennia before the founding of this country. But what was unique about us is that we ended it so quickly. It's
right. What was it? An account I follow on Instagram. An influencer that I followed by the name of Vincent Dow. He put up a series of pictures showing Indians, Native Americans flipping off the Mount Rushmore, and then he subsequently showed the true history of the Sioux and the Lakota, and how they were the most brutal and
they were awful.
Yeah, they were like the most brutal and the most barbaristic of all the Indian tribes, and they're not even native to that land. They actually took it over from smaller, weaker tribes.
They're not this like Rousseauian like noble savages. Like it was this utopia before the European settlers got here. That's completely false. It
Right. I know.
wasn't.
Like
It
I
was,
a lot of people have in their heads that prior to European colonists coming to this continent, it was like it was like the Jetsons. Like this advanced society, peace loving, or just like peace loving hippies. Uh, but
it's
it's anything further from the truth.
yeah. Well, it's funny, and I actually, what was it? Matt Walsh was talking about this thing about how oh, colonizers were bad. It's like, you know what? Like when you look at like the Aztecs, like, and they were just as evil as like the Nazis. I mean, they just didn't
Hmm.
have the technology to kill as many people as they would have liked. I mean, but they were
Right.
literally cutting open living people and ripping out their hearts and sacrificing them. I mean, skull. I mean, a mountain of skulls. I mean, it's what they were doing was so evil. And
Right. I forget like
you,
which conquistador or whoever
Cortez,
Cortez. Yeah, like like in his journals, like he talks about
they
like
thought
the
they were
river.
hell. They really thought they were hell.
The rivers of blood that was pouring down from those pyramids and like the pile of skulls at the base of them, and you know
Watch
and I'm
Apocalypto. That's if you want to know what it was really like to be
yeah,
a
or at least that, or a more balanced perspective on like native or indigenous people to to the Americas.
yeah, because
Yeah,
sure,
I
there was probably good tribes. I'm not saying that there weren't, and that
yeah,
they
like the
got
main
screwed.
characters, like the main characters. He lived in a mostly peaceful tribe.
Yeah,
Just kind of kept to themselves, did their own thing. But even then they still had like their own culture. Like there was like that exchange of of meat. Like that refugee, quote unquote, that gave the the fish, and then I forget what the main character's name is, but like he gives up some of the capybara meat or whatever that him and his hunting party collected, and it was like, okay, we're cool with each other. We exchange goods, and yeah, feel free to walk through our territory.
yeah, it's like no problem. And but yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
but
but
then you have like I think it's the Mayans
yeah,
that's depicted.
it was either the Mayans or the Aztecs. I'm thinking it was the Mayans though.
Right. But
Um,
yeah, like theirs was depicted as like the decadent society, like the blighted land, like all the there's like the trees that were like rotting and dying of diseases, and then you had like the consumerism and like the excess of like the big cities. Um, so don't like let's not fool ourselves into thinking that this was some sort of utopian like there's like utopian paradise on this continent, and it
yeah,
was the evil bearded white people that came and destroyed all of it.
yeah, and the other thing too about it is you have I mean, even like because a lot there were peaceful tribes, sure, but a lot of them got run over and cannibalized or murdered or enslaved by the kind of the more famous tribes that we know about.
Mm.
And but now everyone's like well, white people, not white lefty liberals who they're up in arms about, oh, it's so sad, why are we giving Indian names to these sports teams? It's so awful. It's like Indians don't care. And to be honest, it's a sign of respect, mainly because we fought these people for hundreds of years. They were valiant warriors that we ended up having several wars with.
Right.
Um,
You don't name things after what you hate.
exactly.
That's why there's no major league sports team called the shitbags or the pricks
Or like the
or
Tennessee Nazis. Like it just doesn't exist.
yeah, exactly.
It's yeah, like the Cleveland Indians. Like they're actually they're probably gonna be the first baseball team to get rid of their team name. They're gonna be like the Cleveland baseball team. Uh,
no. That's the Washington Redskins.
well, no,
They
no, no.
changed
But
it.
I'm
Yeah.
saying that in baseball,
Oh, in baseball, probably. Yeah.
Cleveland is going to be the first team to get rid of. They've already gotten rid of the livery of the Chief Wahoo,
Hmm.
which I'm so glad I bought that hat when I had the chance.
Hmm.
There, which is, I mean, it's a great hat. It's a great, and the fact that they're getting rid of that, and they're going to change the name, but it's going to be something stupid like the Cleveland baseball team, like how it is for the freaking
Washington
what
Redskins.
was the Washington Redskins, which was a great name. And
Hmm.
I love, and the color scheme and the history of that team is really awesome. But now they're just like, yeah, fuck it, just get rid of it.
Yeah. I think Robert and I, we're deeply, we deeply love this country and everything that it stands for. And does it always get it right? No, but I think it's the I think I could speak for Robert, but we both believe that given what's around us, it's still the best system that's ever existed.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
and
provided opportunities for so many people, and we've had a lot of great people that have lived and made something of themselves in this country, and we really do stand on the shoulders of giants, and
mhm,
they deserve our respect, they deserve our honor, they deserve to be read about and talked about and not derided.
right.
We can be honest with the history. We can be honest with their faults and their and as well as their praises. But the the fact that we tear down the statues and we deride these people and call them evil is to me is just completely wrong.
Can agree with you more. I was gonna say something, but my mind kind of blanked out. Oh well, just kind of like my own like if my family decided to stay in Korea, I don't know necessarily if I'd have the opportunities that I have in this country,
Right.
or even be able to have been looked on as someone of value and not someone that would just be a burden to society because of my condition.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but yeah, here in America, like I'm fully given the opportunity to explore my capabilities and also to fulfill my potential.
Yeah, and there's someone like that's like trying to like beat you in the streets, like you freaking handicapped guy with your no hands. Like no one does that here. In fact,
Yeah.
to be honest, I can't think of, at least at our age, like can you think of anyone that would actually like say something like that? I don't.
No, no, that's I mean I get the odd question here and there from my little kids, but that's little kids,
Yeah,
and
that's
they're just trying to understand the world that they live in, and
I
so
mean,
it's complete.
if you were a leftist, you'd be writing a op-ed in like the New York Times about how like you're mentally you're depressed and have so much anxiety over these
Right.
little kids
No,
asking you
yeah,
so many questions.
and I'd what is it? I Because I'm not able to use a knife and fork, I call it oppression of the disabled.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, right.
yeah, knives and forks are ableist.
Dude, don't give these people ideas,
I
Andy.
know. I'm sorry, guys. I gotta stop giving them ideas. But it's gone to like that level of absurdity where it's like that could be like an actual article written and published in either in a physical print magazine or on a digital platform.
Oh yeah, it's insane. But
Oh, now I remember what I was gonna say. But also, talking about the founding fathers, if you think about every other revolution in history, it's always been bottom up. Uh,
Yeah,
the American Revolution is unique in that it was top down, meaning that the ones with the most to lose were the ones to lead it. Um,
yeah.
in
It's
every like the what is it, the Bolshevik Revolution, the French Revolution, it was all like bottom up, or it was like all
disaster.
people. It was all people, or in terms of, especially in like the Russian revolutions, it was like all, but it was like posers. It was people from like good or well-to-do families who sought power through manipulation of the masses. So
Yeah,
in that case, it was a bottom up revolution. Whereas the American Revolution, it was the guys at the top, who had everything to lose, who said like who decided that everyone should have a chance to be where we're at, and actually gave up a lot of privileges.
there were
Um,
some real stakes in the game.
yeah, exactly.
These were,
Real skin in the game.
I mean, the founding fathers were is essentially the elite of this of the continental.
Yeah,
You
of
know,
colonial society. They were the
colonial.
elites.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys were in the upper echelon of society. A lot of them had property, money, status, and they gave that
Or like,
all
yeah,
up.
or a skill, like like silversmiths,
Yeah,
or plantation owners, or the merchant class.
yeah, and
All
death was a very very strong possibility. Because if they failed, they're all dead. Every person that signed the Declaration of Independence, everyone that was a part of it, they're dead.
Mhm. Or yeah, like like they'd be strung up, or like drawn and quartered, or like given the traitor's death.
Yeah,
Um, and their families would probably have been,
they would have
you know,
lost everything.
yeah, they would have lost everything. The family, like their loved ones, like their wives, their children, would have been destitute, like living in the gutter. Probably spit on by the landed gentry.
Yeah,
Um,
and when I look back to that time, just the fortitude, the intelligence, the foresight, everything that they were trying to do, I'm just blown away by their courage that they showed. And there's some people would argue, especially like I know like some people in Christian circles who also love this country, but was it a biblical move? Is it something that because normally we're supposed to abide by the government that we have and follow the laws and whatnot. But I think that a lot of these guys were also Christian, and I think they felt what was happening was unjust, that it was not right, and I'm actually glad that they took that action. I'm not one. Sometimes there's things that need to happen for the betterment, and certainly the founders doing what they did, sacrificing what they built something great. Um, and I think the world and many, honestly, like just from a Christian perspective, Christians were way better off um, for what the founders did. Creating this country that they, because I mean, nowadays, there's definitely some pushback on that, but for nearly a couple centuries, Christians, that was a big thing. Like no one was gonna say like, oh, you're a Christian, oh jeez. No one laughed, or the majority of people were, even if they weren't like believers, they did adhere to a Christian standard.
hmm Yeah, I mean, what is it? A lot of early courts, like they would have, the Ten Commandments, or like some sort of like monument with the Ten Commandments out in front of it.
Right.
Um, which does signify our this country's Christian roots.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I think people, but the retort might be like, oh, like the founding fathers weren't like Christian. They were just deists. They didn't really believe in the Christian God. It's like, but
That's not quite true. You
right.
read their writings, and these guys did believe. Now, but they didn't necessarily like let that. They didn't create Christianity as the state religion, but
Right.
they did. That was in the back of their minds. Many of our laws and our creeds were based upon Judeo-Christian philosophy, and that's what made this country great for so long. And if now there's a lot of pushback against that, um, which is a shame, and that's kind of like why we're in the position that we're in. But I think we can. We're still there. We're still on top, but uh, I think this today we need to have the same amount of courage that the founding fathers had, and stand up for what is right. The fact that they started a whole country and rebelled against Great Britain for essentially like a five what was it, a 5 cent tax on tea. Yeah. And then yet we're in, nowadays in California we're getting taxed what, like 60% almost. Like, it's ridiculous. uh uh, the fact that like no one's like, yeah, the government, they're great. It's like, no, they're not great. The founders perceive that this is a possibility, that people are, you give the government power and it never gives it back, and people are just like, yeah, the experts, you don't have to think about it, dude.
Yeah. All Ethan Klein.
God, what a loser.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. Ethan Klein, I think, has become a bit of a cautionary tale, because he used to be someone who was, a big proponent for, like, the First Amendment, and and fought censorship and things like that. But he kind of got bought out. I think he even had, like, to the point that he even had Susan Wojcicki, the president or the CEO of YouTube, on his
Yeah.
podcast. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
so
well, well,
now he just toes the party line.
yeah. Once you gargle the jizz of big tech, I mean, that's
Yeah.
really the that that's
Oh,
the
jeez.
death knell, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I was talking to this young person, and the subject of Eminem kind of came up, and I was like, yeah, I don't really listen to, like, I think, like, his new stuff was like the subject of his new stuff came up, and then I was just like, yeah, I don't really listen to that, and then his new stuff. It's
There
like,
was
I
a
don't,
time though that he had good stuff and that he actually
exactly, and
had a
so
message.
I told him, I was like, yeah, I don't really listen to his new stuff. I'm gonna choose to remember him as he was, not as he is.
Yeah,
And
he
I think,
died like 10 years ago.
yeah. So yeah, I try not to get too upset about these people that I once admired, and would uh, considered fan of. I'm not gonna get mad. I'm just gonna be like, it is what it is. I'll remember you as you were, not as and not as you are.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I've kind of been feeling that way. Especially I've talked about this like with sports.
Mhm.
It saddens me that it's not the sports that I enjoyed. I feel like I can't really enjoy anymore just because of a lot of it's not full fledged yet, at least in the sports that I enjoy. But there's a lot of wokeism that is leaking into the seams, and I just can't abide by that. It really bugs me, and I could get mad, I could be depressed about it, but I want to remember these sports for what they were and how they were created, because they were great at one time,
Hmm.
and actually they were great not that long ago.
Mm.
But now not not so much. So it's I think a lot of that stuff, with a lot of these people that we used to enjoy or look up to, and then you realize, then I don't know what it is with this current date and time, but a lot of it's like, wow, I used to like that guy, but he's got a completely different direction. I did not expect that, and it's like, well, I'm not a fan of him now, but I remember what was great about him back in the past.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, but don't let don't. I wouldn't recommend people getting too down about it. Instead of like kind of like having like that nostalgia for what once was. I would recommend people to look forward and like what could be. Because I think, yeah, it could the American experiment come to an end? Anything's
Sure.
possible. Anything's possible. But I think we should we shouldn't dwell, but we should look forward to what could be, and what part we could be, uh, or what part we could play in that possible future.
That's right. I mean, I'm till the day I'm dead, I will fight for what this country stands for. Um, and then when I'm dead, I don't care at that point. It's like I fought the fight. It's
Hmm. Absolutely. So, um, yeah, I mean, does it suck that it seems like our country is falling apart or ripping itself apart? Yes, but again, it's you don't have to succumb. Start
Mhm.
your own community. Start building a core group of people that you can depend on, and that they'll have your back, and all that good stuff.
I definitely have that.
Yeah. So yeah. So kind of taking the cue from the founding fathers. Uh, you know, create something better.
Yeah,
And yeah, that would be my advice to everyone who feels kind of down, or like kind of they feel despondent about what could come in the future.
agreed.
All
Well,
right.
what topic should we start off with tonight, Andy? To me, I don't think anything happened this week, right?
Yeah, nothing at all. All's quiet on the Western Front, as it
Yeah,
were.
it's
Um,
a great movie.
let's. Oh, well, yeah. Let's. Well, actually, just really quickly, I would like to touch on that British dude that said that he's transitioning into Korean, or into
Oh,
a
good
Korean.
lord.
Um, something that I forgot. I failed to mention the last time, but he also came out as non-binary, I believe.
Oh lord.
Um,
Of
yeah,
course. I
like
mean,
transgender, non-binary, and he decided that he's going to use they them pronouns. But it's funny because if he's going to be Korean, he won't be able to communicate because the Korean language is gendered. There are
yeah,
words that men use and there are words that women use. And
right.
there's no like indefinite like articles in, or not really, uh, in Korean. Like not like in English where you can use they them like to kind of describe generally. Oh,
Well,
like
no,
they did it, or I went with them. Um, you know, obviously denoting like a group, usually. But in Korean there are no like kind of catch-all words. Like you
Yeah.
either use the words that that men use, or you use the words that women use, and there's no middle ground.
Right. All I can say is good luck, Ollie.
I know. Good luck.
I mean, at this point, it's like, yeah, if you're gonna do all that, like, just at that point, just go full bore, dude. Like, yeah, I'm everything. It's,
Yeah. But I
pansexual.
mean, yeah, that makes me then curious. Like, is he's doing what uh, people on the left accuse kind of everyday people of doing, especially around Halloween time when they say like, "Oh, my culture is not a costume."
Yeah, I
But
mean,
that's basically what he's doing. Like, if he knew anything about like Korean culture, or or even like or just like the language, you'd understand that you can't be non-binary in Korea. In Korea,
it doesn't work.
it wouldn't work.
And I
And
don't think,
so,
like, because obviously now that, they're with, I mean, it's nobody in this culture that does this, but like, white, leftists, white leftists do this with like the Latinx crap. Like,
mhm.
it's, I don't even think that there's that kind of thing in Korean culture. There's no Latinx. It's like you
Right?
can't
Yeah,
really,
yeah. There's no like Korea X.
yeah.
No.
I don't think that would work.
Yeah, I mean, my so it's so retarded, but my school has an alumni Instagram account, but a while back they changed it to AlumX.
Oh, Jesus
I
Christ.
know. I was like, you stupid motherfuckers.
It's already
Alumni,
incorporating everybody. Alumni
exactly.
is not just
Alumni
men.
is not gendered. It doesn't matter. It's all inclusive. Alumni is already inclusive of everybody. Everybody that happened to graduate from that particular institution.
That's right. Yeah, you have to have graduated from there. You can't be an alumni of something you never a place you never went to.
Yeah, or you dropped out from.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, hell, if a dog graduated from, like, that school, he's an alumni.
Right, exactly.
Jesus
But yeah,
Christ, alumnix.
Alumnex, yeah, Alumnex. It's so retarded. Like, I kind of want to give back my degree. It's like, I don't even care that you scam me, the price of an Escalade for 3 years. Just take it back.
That's something that, like, when it comes to stuff like this, I know a friend of the podcast, Dan the Man, uh, one of my best friends. That's something I can't quite get across to him, is that the language is so important, and when things it's not like you go from point A to point B, like, right off, but it's little subtle changes over time that get your mind accustomed, and then you start using that language. That's how the leftists win. They
Right.
slightly change the language until it changes your mind on things, and all of a sudden you're on their side. It's like, I mean, unless, like, you're aware of the spell.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
me, I'm
Exactly.
aware of the spell. Like,
Mhm.
that's why I don't.
Yeah. So like, instead of saying LGBT, I should just say, what it really is, degenerate. It's like, oh, you're a degenerate. Okay, got
Yeah, that's why
it.
I don't call Bruce Jenner Caitlyn, or call him a
Mhm.
woman. It's like, I'm not buying into that. Like, just no, it's not real.
I know that's yeah. I mean, I know it's almost a cliche now, but to reference 1984. But that's that scene where Winston Smith is being tortured, and like the officials like, you're like, how many fingers do you see? And then it's like, the person's holding up four, but he says like, no, it's five, and like and it got to the point where Winston, he actually started seeing five fingers, like he literally started seeing it. Like,
Right.
he didn't say it to just get out of being tortured, but he like wholeheartedly, in his heart of hearts, believed that government official was holding
And it
four
got to the point
fingers.
where it's like, no, two plus two is not five. 2 plus 2 is whatever we say it is.
Yeah, exactly. Right. He's like, oh, what's 2 plus 2? And then he's like, whatever you say it is. Like, that's right.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
so,
Brave New World, 1984, like Animal Farm, all this shit. Like, this stuff is, it's scary how real it's becoming. The movie Equilibrium, which we should definitely review at some point. With
didn't we
Christian
though?
Bale.
I thought we did.
No, we have not done that movie yet.
Are you sure? I could swear.
I am 1,000% sure. I would love to do Equilibrium, but we haven't done it yet. But it's kind of the same, or it's kind of like Fahrenheit 451, somewhat.
Right. It borrows a lot of tropes from other authoritarian dystopian kind
Yeah,
of
but
sources.
Gattaca is another one. It's
Mm-hmm.
all the
Gattaca's a
stuff
great
is
movie.
kind of becoming true in a lot of ways. Kind of scary that it is, but it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, it's just you can't want what they're offering.
Yeah, but in a sane society, a guy like Ollie London should be at the very least in therapy because he has mental problems.
Mm-hmm.
He has a condition.
Right.
Um,
Which I think still the DSM-5 categorizes, that as gender dysphoria. So it is still a mental condition.
it is like I said, I'm not just saying that just to be rude or a jerk, but it really is
Right.
based
And no, yeah, in no uncertain terms, it is a mental disorder. And
like I said,
not just because it's not just in some official sounding book, but I mean it clearly is.
yeah, it's like he should be, if not in a mental institution, at least at the very least in some sort of therapy.
Right. I mean, because like, what is it? What is it? How does one know what it feels like to be the opposite sex?
Like I said, it's not a problem I have. And if people are, I'm not saying that people don't suffer from this. I'm sure they
Mm-hmm.
do.
Right. And then
We
yeah,
live in
and
a very weird
they should be
society.
treated right. Like, it'd be like if I went around and I pretended like nothing was wrong with my hands, and
Right.
like I would try to grab things with one hand. I'll try to write my name with one hand. Things that normal people would do with one hand. And and then if anyone tried to like help me, or and I snap at them, and I like, how dare you, and you know and tell them like, what are you talking about? I'm the same as you. I'm like, nothing's wrong with my hands. It'd be like that.
And I don't know, like, because I've heard from people who've had uh amputations, like either their leg or their foot or their arm.
Mm-hmm.
They do have that, like, where they still feel
Yeah,
their
the
limb.
phantom limb syndrome. Yeah, phantom limb.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of an extension of that in a way. But like they're experiencing something that's not real, that's like not there,
Mm-hmm.
and but yet they feel like it's real, that like they are this thing that they're not, or they have this thing that they don't have.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just it's a mental condition in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of amputees have to go through therapy to like kind of kind of go through uh how to live their life without their appendage, because it affects them.
Mm-hmm. Right. I mean,
It's not like
in
off
that way, I don't really consider myself to be disabled
yeah.
because again, I didn't lose anything. I was just born this way. So
Right, it's
for
not
me,
like
this is completely
it's not like
normal.
you had like my hands and then like you went to like what you have.
Yeah.
You've always had it. So, and we've talked about that with your story on the podcast about like,
Mhm.
you don't see yourself as necessarily like handicapped or whatever. It's like, yeah, I'm just
Mhm.
different. It was just this is the way that God made me,
Mhm.
and you deal with that. And to be honest, there's a lot of times where I almost don't even think about it. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. You don't have hands, Andy. Let me open this bottle
Yeah,
for
like
you.
yes, exactly. Like especially like when carrying things or like opening things. Yeah. Um, yeah. So it's amazing how many times people. I get that from people. It's like, oh yeah, dude, I totally forgot. It's like because partly because I am so capable. Like I literally have to think about things that I can't do. Um,
It's
and
not a lot. It's
it's
really
not
not
a
a lot.
lot. It's really not a lot. Um, so in that way, I feel blessed.
Yeah.
But all right, yeah, we kind of diverted, but it's okay. I
That's
think it's
more.
again, it's another
What
important. I
it,
believe it's another thing to it's an important thing to bring up, and
yeah. Well, it's connected to our stories in a lot of ways.
yeah, it dovetails a lot. Um, but yeah, let's start off with the Cosby stuff.
So Cosby's been released from prison,
Hmm.
and obviously a lot of people are like, "What? This is an outrage!" Hear me out on this, because this is where this is why people don't trust the justice system, because there's a lot of corruption in it, and trust me, I believe that Cosby's guilty. I think he did all those things to those women, and he used his celebrity and his power to everything that he had, and was a serial predator of women, probably more than even that came forward. I'm sure that there's a lot, which is I know when that initially all came out, I was like, obviously, because there's a lot of hoaxes that come out with
Hmm.
like people who are jealous and like hate celebrities, and I'm going to get money off of this guy. And so
Right.
I was skeptical at first, but then I was like, once the evidence started to mount, and I was like, okay, they're all kind of telling, they don't know each other. They're all kind of telling a similar sort of tale, and they have details. Okay, this happened. It's this guy. The problem
Although
was,
I would push back just a little bit and say that I'm a little leery because all this the entirety of the prosecution's case was basically testimony.
here
There was no like there's no physical evidence. There's nothing like definitively. It's just these women's word against against Cosby's. And yes, the preponderance of people that came forward and blah 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 blah. But still, it's like at best it's circumstantial.
but here's where, and I'm going to push back again, because here's the thing: like, a lot of these cases were outside of the statute of limitations.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this isn't Christine Blasey Ford either, where it's like, oh well, I don't really know, and I just feel like it wasn't like that. They were actually giving details of like what took place. All of the what's her face with like Joe Biden, or was it Tara Reid,
Mm-hmm.
and then your Juanita Broderick. They had
Right.
details.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not like, and not just like some flimsy, like I was kind of sort of in this place maybe, and I felt like this way. No, no, no. They're actually giving details of what happened and what took
Right.
place and
Right.
what.
Right. Yeah. I
So
mean, I
that's
don't mean to
like,
diminish these women's or their stories, but yeah,
I'm not
I'm
saying
kind.
that like
Yeah,
all of them.
devil's advocate here.
Yeah. I'm not saying that they were that all this happened to all the ones that came forward, but there
Mm-hmm.
were enough where I'm like, okay, this probably happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a few that actually did have some evidence, but here, here
Right.
here's where the problem lies. Because I don't, I think initially, there was it wasn't a mistrial, but I think it was a hung jury initially with like one of the criminal cases. But then
Hmm.
there was a civil case, and obviously they had Cosby on the stand,
Right.
and
Well, no. Well, like, yeah. What I hear is like they used like his deposition from that civil case, admitting to like, yeah,
oh,
I
yeah,
did that. I
it
drugged
was
them.
a deposition, and he could have pleaded the fifth the entire time, and
Right.
was within his rights to do so.
Hmm.
But what the prosecution told him is like, no, no, we're not going to use your testimony against you. We just want, but you, so don't worry, you tell the details. And
Hmm.
then after he does all that stuff, it's like, actually, yeah, we're going to use that against you, and then we're going to arrest you,
Exactly. Yeah.
which is
Exactly.
wrong. He does. I Yes, he is a degenerate. What he did to those women is awful. Uh, but at the same time, he still has rights. You can't do that to him. You can't tell him you're not going to incriminate him so that he gives testimony. And it's like, we're gonna. There's no like, to use the term, and you can't Indian give with that stuff. You can't just take it back.
You're reading my mind because no, well, I wasn't gonna say what you said, but I still in the vein of like Indians. Like he's like, oh, you can't promise one thing and do another. It's like he's like he's not an Indian.
Yeah. You can't do that. The prosecution cheated. But
Right. Yeah.
and that's also the problem, because that happens a lot in our justice system, where
Hmm.
you have people that cheat the system, um, and it's wrong. The guy
Hmm.
still has rights. Yes, there's a lot of evidence against him, but of there's a lot of good testimony. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence, but you got to find the evidence. You can't just and you can't tell the guy it's like, oh, I'm not going to use your testimony against you, like where you're essentially you kind of like you have the right to remain silent,
Right.
uh, which is true. You have the right to remain silent, but you're telling me it's like, no,
Hmm.
no, no, we're not. You tell your story, you be honest under oath, and then we're not gonna hold it against you, because it's a civil case, not a criminal case. And then you arrest him and throw him in prison from that like testimony. You can't do that. It's cheating. Does it suck? Certainly, but at the same, yeah, it sucks because in this case, you have someone that definitely deserves to be in prison, that is now being released because of that technicality. But you know what that does? It also protects the law abiding citizen, and that might be getting railroaded by some prosecutor or whatever, that they have a grudge against them.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. And that's always the that's always that's kind of the bug and the feature. It seems in our justice system.
Yeah, but I think, is it perfect? No, but I think at the same time, it's I think it's a good thing to have. It's kind of like the idea of the checks and balances. We have checks and balances within our government, but it's also within our justice system in a lot of ways too.
Right.
Now, people find a way around that a lot of times, and which is unfortunate, but I think it mostly is a good thing.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I think. Yeah. I mean, just this past weekend, we saw that movie, Justice for All. That scene where Jeffrey Tambor's character, he kind of has like a mental break because of a client that he was able to get off on a technicality, went at, was found doing horrible, he ended up killing kids, and so because of that, he had a mental break, and kind of like revealing the cracks, as it were, in the system.
And to be honest, in a lot of ways, his character didn't do anything wrong. I
Hmm.
think it was he was doing his job as a defense attorney,
Right.
and he found a way. Like, these guys cheated my client, And yeah, he may have done it, but you cheated him from his rights, and because of that, like you got to try again, because it's you got to get the actual evidence. You can't do this, and but at the same
Right.
time, the guy had
Yeah.
a soul, and it's like
Hmm.
when he found out that that guy killed again, he's like, oh God, what did I do?
Yeah, the weight of
So
that.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think yeah, that's what I really appreciate about old movies is like they're able to present both sides, but not like but not come down on any one side,
yeah, that movie
because
had a lot of interesting. There was a lot of interesting thought challenges within that movie.
right. But yeah, like the woman, the I forget what the actress's name is or what the character's
I
name is.
really, yeah, but his
But she
girlfriend,
had
right?
that yeah the girlfriend of Al Pacino in that movie. She put when Al Pacino's character is having that crisis of whether or not to defend or represent the accused judge. She points out to him like, well, you're a defense attorney, and that's your job. Um,
Yeah.
it does, as a defense attorney that sometimes you're going to represent guilty people, but it's still your job to defend them and try to get them off. Um, and so yeah, again, just kind of, and bringing it back to that counterpoint, was so powerful because you have you have the Jeffrey Tambor scene where he has that attack of guilt, but then you have the other side where it's like, well, it's your job, it's in your job description or job title. It's like defend your client, and
What, and you
regardless
even
of
say like
guilt
Al
or
Pacino's
innocence.
character also. Yeah, I mean, you also like Al Pacino, like his character also kind of had a kind of a break in that like kind of final court scene. Is like the
Mm-hmm.
prosecution has no case, like they're fucked. But
Mm-hmm.
I would be damned if that guy goes free. And it's like I'm gonna be the one that like gets this guy arrested. And he starts like shouting all like it's like, yeah, this guy did this. He is guilty, and they have no case. It's like, oh man, that was the final scene of that movie was just it was so great. Um, and yeah, it was that movie had a lot of great thought experiments. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we watched that together.
Yeah, me too.
But it's the same thing here. It's like, no, Cosby's not being released because they all of a sudden found him innocent or anything like that. No, nothing like that. But they violated his rights. They arrested him and threw him in prison illegally, and they cheated. The prosecution cheated, and now they have to try again. Or to be honest, that what Cosby's what like in his 90s now, right? He's gonna die soon,
Some probably I think 80s, but
80s. I mean, I mean, honestly, try again. It's like don't, but you can't violate the guy's rights. Oh, I don't. Here's the thing: is I don't know if they can do that. At least
well, no,
until
like
the
not
West.
on like yeah, not on those charges,
No, not on. They had to find like someone else that is gonna.
right?
If
Because double
someone else,
jeopardy and yada yeah.
right.
They would have to they would have to find he's 83.
Really, God, he looks so much older than that.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought he was in his
But
90s.
he has he kind of has like the Asian syndrome where it's like once he fell off the cliff, he really fell off the cliff.
Oh yeah, because
Um,
he looked great for a long time, and then yeah, really fell off the map. And
yeah.
to be honest, I actually liked Cosby for a long, long time. And because even in his old age, he was talking like especially against like a lot of these the radical black movement and stuff. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, you guys are the problem is because you guys don't have like fathers in the homes, and you got to
Right.
stop.
Yeah. No, he was like the only one to like call it out, and you know, uh,
I was like, yeah, Cosby. And he was, and he's still right, but he was it just turned out that he was an awful, awful person at the same time.
right.
Two things can be true at the same time.
Yes. Exactly.
But that's all I have to say about that. It's not. I'm not saying Cosby's innocent. I'm not saying that he doesn't deserve to be in jail. But at the same time, you can't violate the guy's rights. You can't.
Right.
You can't just.
Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, otherwise, then you can go. You can go back and. I mean, if he was still alive, then you could have easily gotten Charlie Manson off or
Because that's
whatever
how you
for
get
whatever
Mao
reason.
show trials. That's how you get Mao
Exactly.
show
Yeah.
trials.
Yeah. Exactly.
Uh, that's what you get. Like you get 1984 and Brave New World and all this shit. Or what's the God, I'm trying to think of the uh, Kafka. It's his book. It's like where you're on trial for something you have no idea what the hell you're on. You're what you're being accused of, and I forgot what his book was, but it's kind of the same thing.
Was
It's
it
like
the metaphor? I mean, the metamorphosis.
I think that's me. Yeah, I think that might have been the title. I'll have to look it up, but it's the idea of like, yeah, that's how we get to that point. If you violate one guy's rights, it just leads down to um, it makes it easier next time around.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, these prosecutors are political figures. Um, they're looking at they're voted in, and you their aspirations are not necessarily the most benevolent in a lot of ways.
Right. I mean, kind of like again, kind of in Justice for All, the DA, the assistant DA or whatever, um, the Craig T. Nelson's character, um,
Yeah,
yeah, he was very much a political animal too, because he was like, oh, I'm gonna get this judge, and I'm gonna, and the DA is gonna be and I'm gonna be one that took him down, and that's gonna give me a path forward to like being the DA or being the
I'm the
governor or whatever.
quarterback. Damn it. Yeah,
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, like these are all even the public servants like the district attorney, they're political animals.
they're not benevolent creatures that are like serving justice all the
Hmm.
time.
No, usually it's they're serving themselves.
Yeah.
Uh, and so yeah, we should never yeah, never forget that. I mean, even in our own, even in our own, even in reality, it's kind of happening with like the San Francisco DA and the LA DA. They're behaving more like public defenders than they are like DA. Which there already is a public defender's, um, office.
Yeah.
The DA is supposed to look out for the interest of the general population, not like criminals.
Mm.
Um, so and but everything that they do like especially like the DAs now like even like that Kim Gardner chick in Missouri,
Hmm.
like St. Louis area, like the ones that try to go after the McCloskeys.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even like she was politically motivated, and
That's why she was going after them.
yeah, exactly.
So
So I mean, we all like to think that our justice system is filled with a bunch of white knights, but
yeah, we think it's like it's we're looking at like they're a bunch of Harvey Dents, but a lot of times they become Two Face.
right, exactly. Good metaphor. I was just about to get there, but you beat me to it.
Andy, it's scary how often we think alike.
I
It's
know
it's
it's
really scary.
I know it's amazing.
Are we
We
married?
have I don't
Yeah.
know. We're kind of married.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I see you at least like 3 times a week at this point now.
I know. Uh, which does piss off the wife. And
Well,
I can live with that.
mainly because you give her a hard time.
This is true. But I'm only trying to strengthen. I'm only trying to strengthen her. You know.
That's
You know,
true.
it's like that line from Lost, delivered by the character of John Locke. You know, when he was trying to help Charlie, kick his heroin addiction.
Right.
You know, he talked about like the moth in the cocoon, and it's like, you know, struggle is nature's way of strengthening.
Yeah. God, that show was so great.
Yeah,
I don't hate the end of that show either. I actually thought it ended well.
I don't know. I was pretty let down, if I'm to be honest.
I I was not too let down actually. I really did like that show. I just felt like there was a few things that were left unanswered that I wish were answered, but
Mm,
mostly satisfied.
okay.
But I love John Locke. He was a great character.
Yeah, John Locke was really a good character. Interesting though that he was named after what is it? Like that, like the other John Locke in history.
Yeah, the uh
The
the the philosopher.
Yeah, the philosopher. There you
All right. Well, that's all I have on Bill Cosby.
go. All right. Yeah. So let's move on to the next topic of discussion, which is kind of like the follow up of the whole the fallout of the Wii Spa event.
Yeah,
Uh,
this whole thing escalated really fast. Like, cause I
yeah.
think after this whole thing came out, like, I mean, oh, like it's been a week,
Hmm.
and I mean, this past weekend there was people protesting Wii Spa as they should be, to be
Hmm.
honest. But once I heard that, like, oh, Antifa was gonna be coming, it's like, oh, here we go. I knew it was
Hmm.
gonna be a shit show, and
Right, and
it
I
was.
think even the counter protest flyer even had the Antifa flags on it, if
Yeah,
I'm remembering correctly.
but they're just an
Um,
idea, Andy.
yeah, but it's just an idea.
I didn't
It's
know an
like
idea could beat the shit out of people.
apparently so. But yeah, I mean, when and I mean, I mean, if you saw in the title, like that's why that classic line from that British TV show where it's like have the Nazis, and it's like the one where it's like he's having like a moment of self awareness. Is like, are we the baddies? And Antifa coming and in support of what they claim to be trans rights, but really it's just cover for pedophilia.
Yeah, well, because it wasn't a bunch of like Koreans that like came out to protest this. Like,
There's video of at least one Korean, and it's confirmed he's Korean because he's an older gentleman with
it is not
kind
all in
of
London.
with white hair. No, 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 no. But yeah, but like this woman literally attacks him, and like tries to goes after his nuts, and he retaliates on her, and then
Good for him.
irony of ironies, the Antifa, the anti-police group, screams for the police to come, and the cops do come, and like I don't know if he got arrested, but he was escorted out of the scene.
Yeah, it's like, sorry, they attacked me first. My life was in danger. I'm fighting back.
Right, yeah, armed with one of those hydro flasks, those metal water bottle things.
Yeah,
He got her good. She's like, well, bam,
good.
Yeah, but there what I have to admit that watching those videos from the weekend, it did, and it evoked my sense of wrath.
Oh, I
Um,
was pissed too. It's just like
yeah,
this.
I wanted to hurt people, and that's not good. Um, vengeance is mine, says the Lord.
Yeah, the
So, but yeah,
the
it's just really hard because I really wanted to hurt some people like after watching all like those videos, like a couple of like Hispanic people, an Hispanic couple was attacked
yep.
out of nowhere. A couple of street preachers were assaulted.
Because I know there were some Christian groups that went there to like protest that too.
Hmm.
Um, because it's We Spa was one of like kind of the um, one of the highlights of the Korean community. Like a lot, Koreans from all over, Los Angeles would come to this place.
Mhm.
It was kind of like a destination for like
Right. I
relaxation.
mean, yeah, and even yeah, and then even outside of like the Korean community, it started kind of picking up traction. And I mean, kind of like how I just pointed out last week, the great failing of Weesball is not enforcing the culture of like jjimjilbangs or Korean style spas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like
The
I said, that's a slippery slope right there.
hmm exactly. Like they couldn't even enforce the no shoes policy. What makes you think that they could have kept men out of the women's changing area?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Um,
because again, if you're not willing to enforce the small trivial rules, then what makes you think that you could go back and try to enforce bigger rules?
well, the thing that because I ended up having because my wife ended up not work or she didn't work this weekend, uh,
Hmm.
Sunday, Monday, and stuff like that, and I was off for the holiday weekend.
Hmm.
And we ended up when we were out. I was telling her about like this. I don't know how the conversation started, but
Hmm.
it ended up talking about like we spa thing. It's like, oh, did you hear about like this Korean spa like and what happened there? And she's like,
Hmm.
no. And I showed her the video that obviously that became very
Yeah, that went viral.
that went viral, and she's like, oh my god, they let a dude into like the women's changing room. It's like, yeah, because he claimed he was a woman. It's like, no, he's not. He has a cock. It's like exactly. That's the
Hmm.
problem. It's like, and this one woman who seemed like be the only sane person around,
Hmm.
uh, called it out. It's like that guy has a fucking cock. It's like his dick is out. Like I don't want to see that. It's
Right.
and he was
Yeah, I
trying
mean,
to.
it's crazy because there was a woman who kind of gave like I think on her own YouTube channel or something, but she gave like her own kind of testimonial of like a similar incident happening, where there was a man with a couple with two women with him, presumably his friends, and he was like full on naked in one of the hot tubs with this woman and her 6-year-old little girl.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and like kind of like, and I think like she did like, I don't know if she's like described it as like full eagle, but like but practically, um, I don't remember everything she said, like whether she like went and spoke to management or whatever, but but she describes herself as someone who she would categorize herself someone like on the left or a liberal. She even highlighted that it was like, oh, I used to I would go to pride events,
Yeah.
oh, like, oh, I'm a good ally and da 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 da. But you know what they say
But
about
then they suffer the consequences of their thought processes.
exactly.
Dude,
You know, when
if I was there,
when they're confronted with the supposed ideas they like either support or even tacitly support through inaction or silence, this is the result. You have
if
you have you have grown men showing their dicks to little girls.
if I was there and if it was like my wife or like my daughter was there, I would
Hmm.
have grabbed that dude by his fucking balls and ripped him off.
Yeah, no, I mean, if it was me and it was like my wife and kid, yeah, I would be in prison.
Oh yeah, me too. All right, it's like
I
fuck
would
that.
I would be in prison, and I would not feel guilt. I would
And I
you
would,
know I
and the reason and what I would tell like all the people in prison, I was like, why? When they asked me why I was there, it's like, oh, I yanked the balls off of a pedophile.
Yeah, so I kill yeah, so I smashed the pedophile's brains in, and I'd be heralded as
Yeah.
I'd be heralded as a champion, as a hero,
Oh,
because
nobody would
yeah,
touch you.
yeah, no one will touch me.
It's like
I
you'd be
will I will
applauded
be forever protected.
because those people fucking hate pedophiles.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like murder,
Rapists
like
and pedophiles, they hate them.
right, rapists and pedophiles. Yeah, like yeah, murder will murder somebody, but like
Hey, I murdered like 30 people, but
yeah,
fuck that.
even murderers have lines. You know, even murderers have standards.
Which, it's crazy. It's like,
I know, right? Yeah, like murderers and drug dealers, they have a standard, and it's like you don't mess with kids.
you don't touch kids, you don't touch women.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
like if it happened to someone in my family, I smash their brains in, and I go to prison happy.
yeah. To me, honestly, like yeah, I'm facing up to the consequences, but I feel no shame at all.
Hmm.
I was righteous in what I did.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it's just crazy how quickly that escalated, and I was actually very happy that like my wife, who I'm not really always sure like her thought process is
Hmm.
sometimes,
Hmm.
and I sometimes she's a little soft on things.
Hmm.
Then there's times like this where I'm like, okay, she does get it, because
Right.
my wife.
There are glimmers of there's glimmers of understanding.
She's not really in. She doesn't really keep up with like things that are happening in like society and stuff like that. She's focused on her own thing. She has a
Right.
lot of her own worries and whatnot.
Hmm.
But I try to always tell her, it's like, listen, you know, I'm trying to help her understand like my mindset. It's like, listen, this stuff is happening. There's people that are, quote unquote, claiming to be women that are, so they can get into the changing room, and essentially they're pedophiles, and they're trying they and this is not, it's just like one incident. This is happening more and more. You
Right.
have
This is just the most prominent incident to happen. There are
right.
probably dozens, if not hundreds, of incidents that are happening, all around the country, but they're not getting publicized.
Yeah, and it's like I've also been talking to her about like a lot of the Antifa and BLM stuff, and
Mm.
how like these people are being allowed to essentially riot, and nothing. There's been, as far as I can tell, no serious repercussions outside of maybe a
Yeah,
couple of
no.
hand
I
slaps
mean,
or
even
like
yeah,
probations.
even in the examples of the protests this past weekend, like no one was arrested. No one was held to account. Only like the victims of Antifa, they were the ones to be arrested because they were merely defending themselves. They were responding to the violence wrought on them, and they were the ones to be punished. They were the ones arrested. They were the ones taken away. They're the ones that had to be escorted away from the scene. Not them. The
Yeah,
the actual the peaceful ones. The actual like righteous people.
but this kind of like I think the reason that is happening is under our nose, and I think there's been a little bit of awakening and an uprising against this, but under our nose, a lot of these, a lot of people are, especially on our side of the aisle, they're focused on like, oh, who's going to be president, who's going to be, our senator, stuff like that. But there's a lot of these other races that, political races, a lot of people that, a lot of these like little like local judges and DAs and dog catcher, that the left, these crazy leftists,
Yeah, to sneak their way in.
a lot of
Yeah,
historical
just like a
funded like
neighborhood.
races, but they are putting these people into these local races, and they're winning them because nobody cares about them. And then all of a sudden, but what we're seeing is like now people are like, who are on BLM or Antifa or these left wing activist groups. They're not being prosecuted. They're essentially getting away with like a slap on the wrist.
Oh, I
Whereas,
mean, yeah, because they already changed the rules. Like, no more, or what is it, cashless bail? Like, no more, bail's not being enforced anymore. So once, like, if they are arrested, they're not held. They just get released because they don't have to because being in prison or being jailed has no more consequence. Like even financial, because they say,
Yeah.
oh, that disproportionately, affects the poor people. It's like you don't give a shit about poor people anyways. But that,
Right.
that's. But yeah,
And
like,
I
what was it like someone like in one of these like neighborhood councils here in the valley, like she ran as like on the Democratic Socialist like ticket and got in, but now like there's an effort to get her recalled because she
and
isn't
yeah,
she, she isn't doing
people were
shit for her neighborhood.
yeah. Um, well, and it's the same thing. Like, and because to me, I was this past election, I didn't realize that there was a lot of school board positions that were elected positions. And I was like,
Right.
wait a second, and obviously, like, that's a huge issue. Like, where there's a lot of like, crazy leftists that are running the schools,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm kind of glad that they're elected positions because now, okay, we have the potential to get rid of these crazy ass people and put our
Mm-hmm.
own people in and get back to some semblance of sanity.
Right.
It's not completely unelected bureaucrats.
Exactly.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
I
but it
want
also
to.
sucks. It also sucks because, well, at least like the last election when like same as you, I found out that like these like a lot like the community college boards like they were elected positions, but
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
had no idea.
but not but sometimes there isn't even enough information to make an informed decision. Like I would type these people's names into like Google or whatever, but like no information on them would like show up. Like not even so much as a campaign website.
That's the thing is like I almost need we need to find a way to find information on like what's going on in that
Mm-hmm.
world because yes, maybe it doesn't affect us anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but it could affect, but it still affects society in a whole.
Mm-hmm.
It's still education. We should care about it because I don't want people to be indoctrinated by leftist crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nor do I. I mean, I don't know if and when I have children, and if I somehow did not have the means uh, to monitor or have a say in like their education, and I had to send them to a public school, I'd be really worried.
Yeah,
I'd be very worried. Because like nowadays, like kids are spending more time at school than they are with their parents. Especially like with the push to do like pre-K, free like
pre-K.
yeah, like free pre-K, like uh, and then then like offering like state funded daycare services.
No, don't do
Um,
any of that shit.
which let's call it for what it is. Like it's indoctrination centers.
Yeah,
That's all it is. It's not like are they taking care of your kid while you go work or whatever? Yes, but they're also filling their heads with a bunch of nonsense.
you and I somehow escaped. I think we're like the last like remnants of like being able to escape with some semblance of an education and not completely hating the country.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I'll admit, like, I was a default liberal, and I was, I was affected by apathy uh, about what was going on around me. But yeah, it's like it's never, and that's another thing I would like to stress to people. It's like it's never too late for someone to turn their life around, but you can't forcibly make it happen. You can't you can't convince someone that think shit is delicious that that it's not. They
Yeah,
themselves have to come. They themselves have to come to that conclusion. And
right.
or or something. They themselves have to realize this. Like no matter of forceful or uh, yeah, no amount of forcing or perfectly crafted argument is going to change that person's mind. Only they can change their minds. And I mean, I learned this the hard way, through, pointless Facebook debates and online bickering, basically. Um, although I did win a lot of times through,
Yeah,
because there's like
that's right.
I did win a lot of times.
You are very skilled. You're a very skilled debater. I have to admit.
Yeah,
More so than
yeah,
me. You're better at it than me.
yeah, yeah. And the last time I tried to engage was like kind of early on in like the lockdowns and like the masks. It was a friend of mine. She talked about like how like basically repulsed she was about like the people walking around without masks. And I just and I don't know why, but I just kind of pushed back. And I was like, I think they're just I they're just making their own risk assessments, and they're living their lives, and you know and I could have left it there, but then I went into like the legal field where it's like, well, but it's also illegal because it hinders California civil rights statute 51 da da da. And she, when she responded, she did push back, and it was a little bit more gentle. But like suppose like her friends, um, try to rain down hammers on me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
they try to rain down hammers on me, and I didn't respond to them right away, and I was like going through everything that they said, and and picked apart their arguments. And I was trying to craft like the most perfect logical statement that they could not refute. But it just dawned on me that it's like these people are fully bought in. There is no convincing them. I can't convince them, and I can't force them to see it. I can't force them to see it my way. Only they can walk out of hell. I can't.
Yeah.
I can't push them out.
Right. Don't cast pearls before swine, Andy.
Right, exactly. And although like it's like especially because it was a lot of dudes. Um, there was a lot of dudes who were coming out and like trying to rain hammers on me, and I just wanted to, even the gay ones, like I just wanted to like reply all back to all of them as like, hey, guess what? She's never gonna touch your penis. Just stop it.
Yeah.
That's how I should have left it, but I didn't. I decided to not engage. And it's just like there's nothing I can say.
Yeah.
And I think and that's kind of like I think that's kind of how I kind of retain my sanity through all of this, is because like I decided not to engage, like not even in, like amongst my family. Not to say that I lie or I don't express like my what I believe. It's just I don't make it like I don't make it contentious.
Yeah.
I just state what I think, or I state what I believe. And I always say like, hey, if you want to do X, Y, Z, go right ahead. I just don't want to do it. And please don't force me to do such and such. And then it's like, all right, let's continue our our meal, or let's continue having our drinks. I and so I think that's uh, that, and I think that's how I've been able to retain my sanity. I mean, even just this past 4th of July, I remember a friend asked me if I had gotten the vaccine, and I just said no, I'm not. I didn't get the vaccine. And then and he asked why. And it's like, oh yeah, still kind of new to me. Still too new, and there's not enough data, and yeah, I'll be fine in the first year, but what about in the second year, or the 5th year, or the 10th year? And and I didn't, and even though he had said that he had gotten the shot, I didn't like shame him for him. I didn't call him like, oh, you're an idiot, you're the guinea pig.
Yeah.
I just said like, okay, yeah. It's like, yeah, you got the shot, okay.
Awesome.
That's yeah, and yeah, exactly. And then everything was fine, and everything, it didn't like erupt into like this, argument or debate about like, oh no, you have to get the vaccine, or grandma's gonna die, and it's like, well, both my grandmas are already dead, so.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh man.
So yeah, just like just don't back down. Just like present. Don't lie either, but just don't like be forceful. Just like yeah, I didn't get it. No, it's still too new. And it's like it's like it's been a year and a half, and I haven't gotten sick even despite my goings out and interacting with people. So my body's doing something right. So why mess with success?
Right, right.
And that's all that's all you have to do. It's like you don't again you can't force someone out of hell. They have to walk out themselves.
But yeah, it's I just I'm blown away by the amount of activity surrounding Wii Spa, and to be honest, I don't think that I'm hoping that the people like that are protesting,
Hmm.
they keep it up because honestly, like I to be honest, I hope they run them out of business at this point because
Right.
they
Or like yeah, I mean even in I don't know if I want necessarily want to see them out of business, but I hope that they are because again Ollie London, Korea is a shame culture. And I
yeah.
and I hope and I
I
hope
hope
these pro and I hope these protesters shame them into start enforcing like their own law. Because I mean, what is it like? The what is it? Like businesses, private businesses, they can do whatever they want, right? Suppose I mean now they can. I mean not unless you're a baker and you don't want to make a gay wedding cake. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean that's what we've been hearing like this the past year and a half. Like, oh well, they're a private business, they can do whatever they want. So yeah, so let's shame WeSpa into doing what's right, and that's let's keep pedophiles out of places that they don't belong.
Which is everywhere, but especially Wii Spa.
Yes, exactly. So yes, I hope WeSpa is shamed into again, not necessarily going out of business, but shamed because I mean I would love to go back to WeSpa. I wouldn't mind going in for a good sweat. Um, But yeah, I hope that they're shamed into upholding a certain standard.
And if their competitor is smart, they will do the exact opposite of what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. They're actually in the valley. There is actually kind of a wee spa like spa that I have been to. I haven't been in a long time, but it's like they have all the same rooms, mostly the same accommodations. So maybe I'll start going there.
Yeah, I hopefully they're doing the exact fucking opposite of what Wii Spa did.
Yes, exactly. That's the crucial part.
Yeah.
But to answer that question in the title, are Antifa the baddies? Yes,
Yes, they are the
100%, without a doubt.
and they're not an idea; they're an actual organization.
Right? Yeah, yeah. And you could say like, oh, like they're probably just made up of smaller like cells or whatever. It's like, yeah, but the idea that no, like, there's no like kind of central organization is laughable. Even if it is like like splinter like made into splinter cell like based on like the area like Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York
Yeah,
or that there still is a central leadership.
they're coordinated.
Hmm.
They're not dumb. They're
Hmm.
coordinated, and they have a goal in mind, and that
Hmm.
is to sow as much chaos as possible.
Exactly.
And the reason why you have like Joe Biden saying, "Oh, they're just an idea," it's because they are the kind of the military wing of the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
They
same
are
as the KKK like 70, 80 years ago.
yeah
But what is it? Or Joy Reid, who says like of MSDNC, and she confidently proclaims like, oh, Antifa, they're just anti-fascist. Duh. Yeah, the homophobic Joy Reid, saying that anti-fascists like, oh, they're just anti-fascists.
yeah right.
No, like let's take off the anti part. They're just the fascists. All right, let's just call
Yeah,
them for what they are. They're just the fascists.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame. Um, it was good to see that like my wife was kind of like that's wrong. Like guys who claim to be women should not be a thing, and it's like this should not have taken place. Like I agree. I'm glad you see
Hmm.
it that way.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you'll be surprised by people. Sometimes you think that you won't agree on something, but that you find yourself that you do. And I think that's why I haven't unfriended or unfollowed anyone that I know that leans left or considers them liberal or anything.
No, I haven't either. I have
Not
no
not
reason
not
to.
one. I mean, I even though they're annoying and uh, I disagree with them. That doesn't mean like I want our friendship to end because
Yeah,
because I see something because I saw at the time when I knew them way back when there's something that resonated with me and like that I can be friends with this person, but just because they have like this new philosophy doesn't mean I want that I can or I want to give up on the friendship.
right.
And it's like and it's okay for people to be wrong. you know you know I don't know I personally don't know what that feeling is like, but it's I hear it's not that bad. uh,
All right, Andy. Well,
all
let's get
right,
to the
yeah,
fun part.
yeah, let's wrap this up and get to the movie review, and let's be done with this.
All
All
right.
right, yeah, tonight we are actually starting our new theme for the month of July, and that is military courtroom. And to start us off, we will be reviewing the movie Crimson Tide, starring Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington.
And damn, it is good.
It is a good one. Let
They
me
also
hit.
took a Simpsons episode off of this movie.
That's right. Yeah, when Homer, Moe, and Barney enlist in the Navy.
That's right.
But then again, they're actually drawing from a lot of different submarine movies.
That's all. A Hunt for Red October, a lot of different stuff. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Exactly.
the episode title is based off of Crimson Tide.
Right, right, right. All right, let me hit y'all with the synopsis. All right. After the Cold War, a breakaway Russian republic with nuclear warheads become a possible worldwide threat. U.S. submarine captain Frank Ramsey signs on a relatively green but highly recommended Lieutenant Commander Ron Hunter to the USS Alabama, which may be the only ship able to stop a possible Armageddon. When Ramsey insists that the Alabama must act aggressively, Hunter, fearing that they will start rather than stop a disaster, leads a potential mutiny to stop him.
Yeah, it's funny because this was a movie that you recommended to me because I had actually never seen this movie before you recommended it. We did kind of like a movie marathon with you and me a few months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and this was one of the movies. And I was like, man, there's a lot of like military procedure and like kind of military court stuff going on here
Mm-hmm.
because after especially like after the events of this, there's going to be court martials. Like I mean,
Oh yeah,
it
yeah, of course.
is. Um,
Yeah, I mean at the end, the admiral, the admiral's like talking about how, um, that they made a mess of things and how how could there ever be a mutiny aboard a United States nuclear submarine, and how this is gonna have repercussions far after that they leave the building.
right,
It's absolutely absolutely.
and it certainly did because well, what I like about this movie too is you have kind of the old school. Warhawk in Captain Ramsey, with played by Gene Hackman, and then you have kind of like the younger, more, I would say, like more civilized, kind of like, Captain Ramsey's more of like an exposed sword, like he's an unsheathed sword,
Mm-hmm.
whereas Commander Hunter, played by Denzel Washington, he's more of a sheathed sword. Like they are both very like they are both very dedicated to the job. They understand that they are part of the military,
Mm-hmm.
but Hunter's thing is like he's more like focused on like, we have, it's kind of like we have power, but we shouldn't always, be so willing to exercise it. And we need to make sure that like we have gone through all the options before we use before we attack, because it's not just our lives at stake. It's not just the people that um, the soldiers that were attacking, and our soldiers. Other civilians are involved. Like, countries are involved. Billions of people are involved, and we need to make sure that we're, completely sure that what we're doing is ordered by us by on high, and we we need to take every precaution before we use our power. Whereas Captain Ramsey is like, well, we got the orders, like let's go. It's go time. Who cares about, like, if we we have a partially, half message that didn't quite come through. Like, doesn't matter to me. These people are getting ready to attack. It's like it's time to go.
Right. And I think one of like that the mess scene where like all the officers are having dinner, and kind of, and then Captain Ramsey puts Commander Hunter, uh, kind of through the crucible, where he's like kind of getting more of a sense for him. Um,
Right.
I thought that was brilliant, because
It
Captain
really
Ramsey
sets
was
up the whole
saying,
movie.
what was that?
It sets up the whole movie, to be honest.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because Captain Ramsey, the topic of Hiroshima and Nagasaki came up, and Captain Ramsey asked Commander Hunter, is like, oh, should we have dropped the bombs? And Commander Hunter gives like this very nuanced. I know you hate that word, but very nuanced
But it's
response.
appropriate here. It's appropriate.
It's appropriate, yeah, a very nuanced response. Um, and just kind of highlight contrasting the different mentalities of the two men, where Captain Ramsey was like, said like, oh, if he was asked that, he would say like, yes sir, like drop it twice, because like, and because Ramsey said that the Navy wanted him simple, just give him a checklist and a target and a button to push, and he would do it. But the Navy wants Commander Hunter to know why to push the button.
Right.
Um,
Which
but
is a good thing.
Which is a good thing, and I think somewhere deep down inside of Captain Ramsey, he realizes that that's a good thing. But I think like when the moment comes, he pushes that all aside, through and relies on his training and his experience.
And here's the thing: is like Captain Ramsey's not completely wrong either.
Right.
A lot, and actually, to be honest, there's a scene like right as they're getting underway,
Mm-hmm.
the galley catches fire. The mess hall,
Yeah.
and they put out the fire, and it's like, and Captain Ramsey calls for an emergency drill, which and his reasoning behind that is like, yeah, well, you know what, we're confusion is not something to be confusion in a time of crisis is not something that we should fear. We should embrace it and understand how to act when that happens. So we have a fire over here, but we're under these conditions here, and there's a lot of things that need to be done, and we need to know, situations are not going to be perfect. We can't coddle people. We have to train them to be ready for these insane situations. And he's right. Now, Commander Hunter didn't agree with him. It's like we have, we should protect our men, and a fire could have flared up again. It's like, yeah, well, if we're in war, there's gonna be fires. There's gonna be all sorts of shit that's gonna happen.
All sorts of kind of confusions going on,
and he's 1,000% correct. Captain Ramsey is 100% correct in that. Mm-hmm. And he and there was always that kind of like back and forth between them, where like there were times that Hunter was correct, there were times that Ramsey was correct, and they kind of culminates at the end of the movie. It's like you're both right and you're both wrong at the same time. Yeah. And it was just, I think in a lot of ways, Ramsey and Hunter are two sides of the same coin, and they're trying to achieve the same goal, but they have different ways about getting there. And it comes out, and obviously Denzel and Gene Hackman are two of the greatest like living actors that there are, and you get this great back and forth between them with naval military procedure that they're combatants when they should be working together, and it kind of, it doesn't really follow, like I was telling you before we started, it's not quite a military court movie per se, but there's a lot of military law that's in this movie that I thought was kind of interesting. So we have a court scene essentially playing out on
a submarine,
on the submarine command center, and
like when Commander Hunter wouldn't repeat the orders, to spin up the missiles and whatever, he tries to improperly replace Commander Hunter, which then prompts Commander Hunter to cite Navy regulations to relieve Captain Ramsey of command.
Yeah, which he was right about.
And which he was right about, which kind of calls back to that scene at the end where the admiral's like, as far as the letter of the law is concerned, you were both right and you were both wrong. Right. And so, so there is kind of like this adversarial thing happening, which is common in law. I mean, because that's what it is. It's like, it's two sides against each other, trying to prove their case one way or the other. I really feel for the cop, the chief of the boat, when Commander Hunter, invokes the regulation to relieve Captain Ramsey of command, and then Captain Ramsey, charges Commander Hunter for mutiny. And it's just like, oh, like, where do I go with this? But he ultimately ends up that's kind of like a jury, which he then which the cop does side with Commander Hunter, because it is improper for the captain to try and remove the executive officer, the second in command, because he wouldn't follow a morally dubious order.
Right, and he's like, because when he, because that guy, I'm forgetting his character's name.
It's just call him Cop.
Yeah, but he was saying, it's like when he backed Hunter, but then like when Hunter thanked him, he's told him, he's like, hey, fuck you, dude. Like, because he was friends with that captain. Like, that it's like he was loyal to him.
Right, they served together for a long time. Like, he's probably put his life in the captain's hand, and the captain's probably put his life in the Cobb's hands. So you feel for the guy. You feel for the guy because you knew that there was like a great tension right there, and it must have killed him to go against his captain.
Yeah, that's what he told him, to go fuck himself. It's like,
Yeah.
I'll thank you anyways.
Right.
But yeah, no, this movie is real. It's tense. It's there's a lot of there's a lot of anxiety in this film, and to be honest, this is what happens on a sub too, because you're underwater for a long time, and really your only contact with the outside world is through the official message traffic, and so you really have no idea what's going on, and you rely on each other, and this whole situation was very, very tense.
Mm-hmm.
And like the fight between the captain and the XO, the executive officer, that could have and it did in this movie, where it fractured the ship, like, because who's on whose side, and it becomes like, there's a lot of military law involved, and who's right, because they're, like I said, and we kind of get the conclusion to that at the end of the movie. It's like, you're both right, but you're both wrong at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Commander Hunter was proven correct in the end, that doesn't mean that he did everything right.
Right. It was funny because I didn't see this until just now, but there's like this great foreshadowing that happens with what is it, Commander Hunter, and one of the enlisted personnel, where one of the enlisted personnel gets into a fight um, over something trivial, but Commander Hunter kind of like sets him straight. It's like, because this particular enlisted man, um, he's in a position of authority, and so Commander Hunter reminds him, like, oh, you're a supervisor, you're a leader, you have to, what is it? What's the line? It's really great. Like basically, you can't allow like. Oh god, I mean, Rob, do you remember? You know what scene I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do remember the scene. It was the two men were arguing about comic books. They were
Right.
arguing
Yeah.
about which Silver Surfer was the better one. There was the Jack Kirby Silver Surfer from the original Silver Surfer,
Mm-hmm.
and the other guy was for I think the artist was Mobius,
Mm-hmm.
and he and the guy the character that Commander Hunter was talking to is like, believed that Jack Kirby was the better one, and so they had a fight about it. And because tensions on the ship are high, because a lot of they're essentially off, potentially going to war, and I think a
Right.
lot of people were very tense over the whole situation,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, so there was this great scene. It's like, you're on your way to becoming a commission, like you're on your way,
Yeah, to be an
and
officer.
yeah, going from, and especially like in the Navy, going from an enlisted, because there is a program where you become enlisted to an officer, and it's actually a very prestigious program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, he's like, but he also, like, at the end, after telling me he's gonna write him up if that happens again, it's like, but you're right. Jack Kirby is the Jack Kirby's Silver Surfer is the only true Silver Surfer. It's
Right. It's like, yeah, but you have to display like grace or wisdom in the face of stupidity. Basically, giving him like command advice,
right.
or dealing with people. But yeah, I just it just hit me just now about like how like it's kind of like foreshadowing, kind of like the how like things will come to a head with him and Captain Ramsey.
Right.
But he wasn't able to take his own advice.
Yeah, and I think Hunter was, he was so, I think because the stakes were much higher. It wasn't something stupid.
Right. It wasn't over something trivial, of course.
They weren't fighting over comic books or dogs. It was about like we are potentially going to a nuclear war. I think that, and billions of lives are at stake. We better be absolutely sure that things are okay. That we are. I want to be doubly sure that we're called to be doing this.
Yeah, but I love this movie. Like back in the day, every time it would come on TV, I'd always like stop what I'm doing and watch it.
Yeah. This is a great choice. I really like this movie, and obviously I'm a huge fan of Denzel. I love Gene Hackman. You got James Gandolfini. You got Viggo Mortensen.
It's a pretty star-studded cast.
Yeah.
Like even like some people like who used to be stars or like or like potential stars like Ryan Phillippe's in this movie as like one of the crewmen. And then Ricky Schroeder is one of the officers.
Why is Ryan Phillippe's character? He's always staring at his stupid fish.
Oh yeah, this little fish tank. Yeah, it's like you have nothing better to do. Come on.
That's his only like. He doesn't talk in the movie. He's just crying by his fish. He has no friends.
Yeah.
Maybe in a lot of maybe like Ryan Phillippe's character, like I almost wonder if like maybe that's like Captain Ramsey's son, because Captain Ramsey like loves his dog, and then like Ryan Phillippe's character like loves those fish. Like I mean he's like crying like when they're about ready to be like potentially sunk in the ocean. But he's like crying by his fish. He's like, dude, you have a job to do. Like, where are you at?
I know. Why aren't you at your station?
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like what is your purpose here on this ship? Like, what do you do? What's your job? I mean, Steve Zahn, he was like in charge of what is it? The bilge bay or whatever.
Yeah.
And I forget who that character is that's the sonar supervisor.
Right.
Like, yeah, I mean, but he has a job. But yeah, Ryan Phillippe's job is I guess only job is to look pensively at his fish tank.
Yeah. Why? It's like why I never understood that. Like maybe it was to maybe accentuate the tension, but if we were on that submarine, I was like, dude, get the fuck away from your fish. We got problems, man. I need you.
I don't know if you're aware, but the submarine is about to be crushed by several fathoms of atmosphere.
Your fish will be fine.
Yeah, no. So this submarine gets crushed, your fish will be back into the ocean. It's into the water. It's fine. They'll live.
I still don't understand. That's all. If I have one knock about the movie, it's like, why is this character? Because there's no payoff on that.
Right. Yeah. It literally isn't. Like you would think like there's like some sort of deeper meaning.
He doesn't talk to Captain Ramsey. He doesn't talk to Commander Hunter. He doesn't talk to any of the officers.
Yeah.
He's not with any of the other enlisted men at all. Why the fuck is this guy here?
Nobody knows.
Good.
Yeah. Or it's like that great lines like when they're in that fight with the Russian sub, and then one of the sonar operators like say, "Oh, what's 1,000 feet? Let's just get this sucker." And then and then the supervisor character is like, "Oh, it's like well, because it takes 1,000 feet for the torpedoes to arms." Like Jesus, who the fuck did you? Like who'd you fuck to get on this ship?
Yeah.
So it's like for Ryan Phillippe, yeah, it's like characters like, yeah, who the fuck, who'd you fuck to get on the ship?
That's what I said. Like he's like the bastard son of like Captain Ramsey.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, because like he said, like yeah, because what is it? Like his wife left him. He doesn't have any kids that he knows of, maybe.
That's right.
Um, so maybe yeah, like secret is what is it? Theory for Crimson Tide. Ryan Phillippe's character is really the maybe the illegitimate son or the secret son to
Unknown.
Captain Ramsey.
Yeah, that's gonna be my theory. Because literally like I said, you have Captain Ramsey who has his dog who he brings everywhere that he cares about. Ryan Phillippe's character, he doesn't have a dog, but he has fish, and he is glued to his fish. So and no one, I can't think of anyone that can you know
I prove you otherwise.
refute my theory. So
Theories are fun.
yeah. Anything else you have to say about the movie, Andy?
No, I mean, this is kind of this movie is from my childhood, so it has a special place in my heart. But it's just like this movie is done so well, and yeah, it's a Jerry Bruckheimer production, but just like cinematically, like this movie's very cinematic,
Probably
and
maybe one of his best movies.
maybe no, it's not, but he didn't direct it. It was Tony Scott
No, that's true. It was a
that directed.
Jerry Bruckheimer production.
Yeah, production. Yeah, but Tony Scott directed this movie, and I think that's why it's so good. Uh, but yeah, it's very cinematic. It's like I mean, yeah, it kind of is in the style of Jerry Bruckheimer, but that again that's to be expected because it's one of his productions.
Yeah, and this is kind of like a little bit of like the outlier of our theme this month. Because like I said, it's not a full on like court movie. It just deals with a lot of military law. The other ones that we're going to be getting into the rest of the month are held actually in military courts. We got some really good ones. I can't wait to talk about them.
Yeah, and I think oh, there's two navies. But there's Marines.
Well, you could technically A Few Good Men is a Navy movie. 'Cause it's Navy and Marines.
Right. Yeah, and then Rules of Engagement. That's straight up Marines.
Yeah, which is Navy, essentially.
Yeah, I know.
They're a department of the Navy.
They are under the Department of the Navy. I will give you that.
And then Heart's War
Hearts
is an
War.
army movie.
Yeah, it's an army movie.
So, but we have a few Navy movies. We got an Army movie, and most of them are like more like modern day ones. Where except for Heart's War. Heart's War is a World War II.
Yeah, it's a period piece.
Period piece.
Yeah.
But obviously, like everyone I think knows A Few Good Men. That's a really good movie.
I know, like yeah. I mean, just, like, all you have to say is Code Red, or you can't handle the truth.
Yeah, exactly. And I definitely have a lot to say about that movie. But
yeah, a lot to look forward to there.
Yeah, but Crimson Tide. What's your rating, Andy?
Okay. Yes, I will admit fully that I have nostalgia wrapped in this, but I'm not gonna I'm gonna be as honest as I possibly can be, and I'm gonna give this one a 4.
Oh, okay. I'm actually giving it a 4.5 because my one knock on the movie is like I just don't understand Ryan Phillippe's character and his stupid. That's it. That to me, that's the one thing that does not pay off in this movie. Like I want to know. I want to know why. Why is he so? It's not that like he's attached to his fish, like because all the other characters that are involved in like the barracks scene, they're